If I were to open an Etsy shop in 2024, what are some of the things I'd have to think about? Why do I want to sell? Sadly, although this is a rule I broke myself when I started on Etsy way back in 2008, starting an Etsy shop when you desperately need the money is not a great strategy. Unless you have a massive following or are a marketing expert, Etsy is a slow game. Many shops take up to 6 months to even make their first sale. I hear all the time in forums people with tens or hundreds of sales complaining that Etsy is so slow and what do they need to do to get daily sales. Most people never get steady daily sales. But that doesn't mean starting a shop's a bad idea. As a supplemental income or a long term strategy, or even a place to make the odd sale to enable a craft addiction, it can be a good idea to open a shop. But honestly, if I needed the money to live off in the near future, then focusing on running an Etsy shop is likely not a good idea. I would be better to find some kind of work to make sure I was financially secure first, and perhaps have a shop as a side hustle or a long term project. What to sell? After deciding the why of selling, the what becomes a little easier. If my goal is a long term strategy towards making the majority of my income from selling on Etsy, then I need to look at if that is feasible. Looking on Etsy for the top shops in the niche I might want to be part of lets me see the commercial viability of the very top. On eRank, with a paid subscription, you can see the sales over time of the top shops, and you can get an idea of the estimated revenue each of them made. I can see if their sales are seasonal or steady all year. So, a simple bit of maths looking at the average price of items in their shop and the number of monthly sales, I can see roughly how much it may be possible to make each month. Remove the cost of raw materials, divide by the time it would take to make the item to get an idea of the average hourly wage. Honestly, half that, because I know I'll be spending at least as long photographing and marketing and thinking about my shop. So, first of all, is what I'm looking to make viable? And then, honestly, am I ever going to be the top seller? Quite often, what we can create is difficult to make enough money to make a full time living from. But there are always other ways. For me, needle felting by itself is not viable, but the quick search on the top sellers shows that kits and tutorials are also very popular. So, planning on branching out may be a good idea. It might be tempting to look at print on demand or digital and say that's a real passive income, no work needed, no raw material costs, and the items can sell again and again and again. And there's no denying there are some massive POD shops on Etsy. But a few things to consider. Many of the top print on demand shops have thousands of listings. While you don't need thousands of listings to sell on Etsy, it can help to have lots to get the chance to find what works. For many sellers, just a small percent of the listings they create make a majority of their income. So, researching, designing, creating, and marketing thousands of items and constantly trying to find the next seasonal big seller, that can actually take a lot of time. Add to that the nightmare of trademark laws if you're putting text on something onto a design. I wouldn't consider print on demand or digital an easy way to get big sales on Etsy. If you're an expert at design or have a specific niche that you're a great part of the community, then that can be great, but not just, oh, print on demand, what an easy way to make money. For every massive high selling print on demand shop you see, there are hundreds who are not making any sales at all. So the next thing to consider, can you have an Etsy shop in the country you're in? Etsy is not available quite everywhere yet, so it's worth checking this. I know some people try and work around this, but it's not worth it as Etsy will shut you down eventually. Selling accounts, using a VPN or hiring VAs are all possibly going to cause you some issues down the line. Sadly, Etsy isn't for everyone, and that's okay. Honestly, there are alternatives. Niche or branding is next. Shops that do the best are the ones who have a defined niche. This is not print on demand or jewelry, but think more about the type of people you're looking to sell to. If you try and appeal to everyone, you're likely to be pretty uninteresting. But if you really understand the people you're trying to sell to, then it's much easier. A good place to start is to think of the communities that you are most active in. Are you into a certain type of music, gaming, films, and books? Are you a grandmother, a bearded dragon owner, a campervan explorer, or adore the colour purple? Now, obviously, you can't use IP infringing ideas, but if you're an avid fan of Lord of the Rings, what types of things do other fans like? And how does that work into what you can make? What problems do tiny homeowners need solving that you could 3D print? Or what could you knit to keep vegan Arctic explorers cozy? Now it's time to think of the name. Your shop name could be your brand that could be with you for years. That cute spelling may be fun, but in 15 years, you're going to be bored of explaining that the L is a 1 and there are 4 Zs. Cheap gifts for you might not instill confidence in a wedding shop, or do you really want to have to go to court to defend your Disney pun name? Although you can change your shop name down the line, it can be a pain as your customers will know you for the old name. As a bonus, you can check that the URL and social media for your shop name are still available and grab them now. Oh, and don't forget, your shop name can even help you with SEO. If you're lucky and able to get a good keyword for your name, you can show up in all sorts of searches. A shop I've used for years was able to get this perfectly. They sell glass eyes online. The shop name is simply Glass Eyes Online. It's easy to remember, easy to spell, people are searching for it, and it's not a trend that will fall out of popularity in the coming years. But of course, if you're clever with puns, you may be able to come up with something amazing. My friend Starla Moore is way better at branding than me, so check her out. But as you have your name and your shop audience is good, have a think about colours, designs, and the feel of your shop, even how you plan to speak to your customers when you message them friendly, professional, or cute. Oh, and an important step people often miss the legalities. I should have mentioned this earlier. Is what you're planning to make legal? Do you need a safety certificate? Is it legal in the other countries you're planning to ship to? I can't stress enough that just because someone else is selling something doesn't mean it's okay to sell. Do your own research and even get real, actual legal help if you need to. Also, check Etsy policies to see if it's okay to sell on Etsy. It may be legal in your country but banned in Etsy. I can't mention IP issues enough. This is the number one reason people's shops are shut down on Etsy, and in the last couple of years, there have even been more court cases against small sellers. While you're looking into the legalities of selling your item, it's also a good time to check the laws in your country for starting a business. Do you need to register, have a business bank account, insurance? How do you file taxes? Every country is different. So it's good to check all this out. It sounds scary, but often governments want to encourage small businesses and make it easier with simplified bookkeeping or even not having to register while you're only making small sales. But it's worth getting into the habit of doing everything right from the start. The final steps: figure out the bank account and email address you're going to use to run your Etsy business. Plan your first listing and get opening your shop. Remember, make sure the listing is something you can sell. Etsy policies don't like the idea of holding listings. And sadly, be aware there's a good chance Etsy will close it down right away. That is a bit normal, not for everybody, but it happens a lot. Make sure your bank details, etc., are filled in correctly and bug Etsy till they reinstate you. Oh, and new sellers, I also feel I have to say this. Watch out for the scammers. They do target new shops more than anything. Don't click on links, send your email or other personal details to someone messaging or emailing you claiming to be from Etsy. If Etsy needs any info from you, you'll see it when you log in right there on your Etsy dashboard. And best of luck if you do decide to start an Etsy shop. It's stressful, but it's also really cool.